Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Now, I felt the necessity to make this video because this article from the BBC, which is not only biased, by the way, because it only shows one side of the equation, it doesn't even bother talking to anyone who might have a contrary opinion, but that's the BBC these days. They are, of course, very much agenda-driven. But this article in itself, and the evidence that is actually provided by Yuki, totally contradicts itself. Totally and utterly contradicts that the gaming industry is not diverse or open enough. So I'd like to go into it, and you can see for yourself and make your own determination. But the title that they went with, Diversity in Gaming, Industry Promises to Improve, I think we can all agree that that title intimates that the industry is not doing enough to get people from diverse backgrounds into gaming, or it's failing to do so. Oh boy, let's just get into it. Here we go. Diversity is a necessity if the gaming industry is to continue to grow, says the body that represents people who make games, without saying who the body that represents people who makes games is. It's actually Yuki, this company here that we're referring to. And if they're anything to go by, then they haven't got a clue. Around 1 in 10 people working in the UK industry are from ethnically diverse backgrounds, slightly higher than the national working average. So their opening salvo is to say people from ethnically diverse backgrounds working in the UK gaming industry is actually slightly higher than the national average. So that immediately says to me that the gaming industry is doing good. But another thing that you need to look at is what actually is in the UK the breakdown of ethnically diverse backgrounds. I mean, if it's 40% and 10% are getting employed and it's still above national average, then yeah, I understand that's not good as a whole. But what it shows here is I've gone through multiple different websites here to show, and it seems to fluctuate between around about 87 to 92% of UK residents identify as from a white background. So the 1 in 10 correlates to that. And if it is, let's say, 92% and not, I'm showing the lower number here. If it is actually the 92%, then the 1 in 10 is slightly above the average. But they state themselves, regardless, that it's slightly higher than the national working average. So already, you're not off to the greatest of starts, Yuki. Because the word that we need to say in this video is fair. Not lopsided, not one-sided, not being held back, not being discriminated against. The word is fair. And so far, this seems to be fair and in line with current statistics. But women make up less than 30%, the research by Yuki and the University of Sheffield suggests. This is very leading indeed, because it assumes that the gaming industry should be made up of 50-50% representation of men and women. And I know this might come as a massive shock to a lot of you out there, so feel free to clutch your pearls, but men and women are different. I'm going to go slightly further, so clutch 2 sets of pearls. People, in general, are different. What I like, my friend might not like. What I like, Jane down at the gym might not like. Because everyone is different and gravitates towards different things. And we already know that men and women, shocker, gravitate towards different things. So, for argument's sake, a 30% representation of women in the gaming industry actually might be very high for the gaming industry, because the average could be, let's say, 15% or 20%. So 30% representation would actually be high indeed. It works, again, off the assumption that you, as an individual, should be thinking everything should be split down the middle, 50-50. And that's not the case. That's not how industries work. That's not how jobs work. But this is a totally misleading article, and it is designed to make you of the assumption that they're failing. This person that they speak to is laughable. It means that some women have no one to look up to, says Kat Welshford, which is this person here. That's nonsense. If you want to be inspired, and you are only inspired by your own gender, then there's something wrong with you. I personally, and I can only speak for myself, but I look up to people I said, not men, people. I look up to people who inspire me, either through their creativity, either through their skill, their desire, their determination, their motivation. Those people inspire me. I don't look, because I'm a white male, for white males to be inspired by. That is a ludicrous assumption to make. And so if you feel you cannot be inspired by somebody who isn't a woman, then you are doing yourself a massive disservice. She works in marketing at independent games developer Bossa Studios, and says when it comes to women in games, it's a mixed picture. No shit, Sherlock. At my studio, I'm really lucky that we have great gender diversity. But there are other places where I've been where it's disappointing when you see how few women there are, especially in leadership roles. Again, this operates off the assumption that they should, by default, because of their gender, be there. No. As a company, the best people should be there. And if the best people are all women, then it should be all women. And if the best people are all men, it should be all men. And if the best people are all Indian, Asian, it should be them. But that's how it should operate. So you're working off the assumption that the people in those roles are not right, committed, competent enough to hold those roles. And that is wrong. Jesus Christ. We have women in the senior leadership team at Bossa. That's useful to see because I know I can make progress where I am. I can have a career here. Why? Because you're a woman? What? Just because there are women above you doesn't mean you're going to get promoted. You'll get promoted if the company has any savvy at all. If the company is, and I say again, fair. You will be promoted based off your skill and not your gender. And those women who are above you, they worked for those positions. That doesn't mean because they're there, I'm going to be next to climb the ladder because I'm a woman's. So misleading and skewed this article is. Lots of women, other women, I know in the industry who are 29 or 30 are saying to me, they've got no one to look up to. Then they must be as stupid as you sound. Diversity in the creative industries, this is the BBC's hot take here, folks, is a hot topic at the moment, especially after Joaquin Phoenix and Prince Williams spoke out at the recent BAFTA Film Awards. Sorry, I never heard that. I was too busy rewatching the Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes where he tore these people another asshole because how the hell, they don't even live in real life. They just come up to preach, preach, preach. They have no true understanding of reality half the time. Probably Joaquin Phoenix more than most. Prince fucking William doesn't. And they just come out there and blurb their spiel as they go off and jet away in their private jets talking about global warming. Piss off. That is just pathetic, BBC. It's something that's been on the mind of games companies in the UK for some time too, and Yuki started looking into the state of the industry last year, and they're actually going to find out that it's in really good shape for anyone from ethnic diversity backgrounds to LGBTQ plus people. But, we'll get to that in a moment. Yuki's boss, Dr. Joe Twist, says diversity is a necessity for the industry to grow. Why? Why? I'm happy to listen. I'm open to listening, but why? Can you answer that question? More than 3,000 people who work in games in the UK took part in the survey. That's around 20% of the total number of people employed by gaming companies. People need to feel they're being heard. No. When you work for a company, you're working for that company and their ideals. And so the ideals of that company, particularly when you're in the entertainment industry, is, and I'm sorry to say this, to entertain people. That should be your number one priority, not to make my employees feel good. Your job is to entertain your customers. Your customers will purchase your product. Your company will grow and be successful. And hopefully those customers who are happy will return to buy more product in the future. It's not about massaging your goddamn feelings. It's an industry. It's a business. It's about making money. I do know quite a few Chinese and Indian programmers who work in the industry, says Mu Yu, a Chinese-American gameplay programmer who works in London. But he says when it comes to some of the more creative roles, there's more white people and established people. Well, if they're established, that means to me that they know what they're doing. So why would you interfere with that? If they are good enough, then why would you interfere in that just to tick a diversity quota? And you also work off the assumption that these people aren't qualified. If these people are fully qualified for their roles and can perform their roles well, then what is the problem? Now, if they don't, if you are actually want to elaborate on this and say, and I don't believe that a vast proportion of these people are qualified enough, then this is a different debate. This is a different argument that we can have. And I'd be, again, open and interested to listening to what you have to say. But that's not what you're saying, according to this article. You're just saying there are white people here and I'm brown, or I'm yellow, or I'm magenta, or I'm burnt sienna. So what? Jesus wept. The survey suggests that 10% of UK games company staff are from black, Asian and ethnic minority backgrounds, which is higher than the national working population and above that in the creative industries overall. So what you're saying is your evidence from your survey showed that the gaming industry is actually ahead in the diversity game. And somehow that's not good enough. Particularly when it goes above and beyond the stats. It's not okay. But representation is notably less in senior roles. Again, this operates off the assumption that you believe that those people shouldn't be in the senior roles because of their colour. If those people are more than capable of doing their jobs and do it well, then what does it matter? It's a business. They're here to make money, not to tick a box. In the modern day, if you want to tell your own stories, you have to set up your own game studio, says Moo. It's something I'm noticing a lot more people of colour doing. That's great. That's really, really good. Because when you work for a company, you're working for the confines of that company. And again, if the company is fair and knows what they're doing, then their job is to entertain their customers. And if that entertainment means we're going to produce this certain product because this is what our customer base buys, they're doing their job. Now, if you have a creative outlet that you want to explore, if you have stories and ideas that you want to tell, then setting up your own studio is wonderful. It shows entrepreneurial, my God, I can't say the word. Entrepreneurial, yes, spirit. It shows initiative and ingenuity. That's a good thing. And because you yourself set up the company, you yourself have gone into the senior roles. I don't understand what the problem is here. He adds that for the bigger studios, the key is to make people feel like their voices are being heard. No. The key is to make sure that you're producing a good product for your customers. I still think there's a long way to go. I do too. Because Moo, I don't think you understand what customers are and how they make companies work. But never mind. The research also suggests that nearly a quarter of the UK games industry are LGBT, and that 2/3 are under 35. So I did some more research, and it's very, very difficult to get a true kind of percentage of what portion of the population are LGBTQ+. And it fluctuates. And from what I could garner from my research, it kind of goes anywhere between 5% to, let's say, around 15, 16%. And the reason why it fluctuates so massively is because the statistics are made up of... see, I have done my research. They're made up of people who are saying, I'm always been gay. You know, I've always felt that I am of this orientation. Versus people who have said, well, I have had a experience, same-sex experience with somebody throughout the course of my life. And they sort of inflate the stats, even if they're not that way inclined now. So let's just say between 5 and 15 odd percent. All right. So if we go to the top end and say 15%, a quarter is 25 freaking percent. So that is exceedingly above what the worldwide, the national average of LGBTQ plus people would be, which is huge. So it shows by your own freaking evidence that the gaming industry is exceedingly inclusive. But what is the result of this? The result of this is, in response to the research, Yuki says it will sign up 200 UK games companies, which covers 50% of the workforce, to their hashtag Raise the Game pledge by 2021. So Yuki's evidence show that if you are from an ethnic background, you not only have better representation than the national average in getting a role in the games industry, but are actually way above the representation in the gaming industry in itself, which is fantastic. And if you're of the LGBTQ plus community, then you are massively above the average. So this industry is very inclusive and very welcoming and open to these people. And if you want to start if you have stories of your own to tell, create your own gaming studios, which can only be a good thing if there's more studios, surely. And the response is, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Although the gaming industry is way above and beyond other industries. Hashtag raise the game. Hashtag move the needle. It aims to increase diversity at every level, even though at the moment it is above everything else. By recruiting as fairly and as widely as possible. Well, if you listen to your own words, fairly would be regardless of sex orientation, colour, ethnic background, gender, because fair would be the meritocracy, and fair would be hiring the best person for the job, regardless of any of that. But you follow fair up by saying widely, which is actually what you really want, because you are playing the diversity game. So you're playing the victim game, but the evidence is showing that the gaming industry is not just inclusive and not just diverse, but ahead of other industries. I don't even know what else to say. This is where we are in current day, folks, where being an inclusive industry that welcomes everyone, because people, normal people, don't care about your ethnicity. They don't. It's not a stigma. Why would it be? They don't care about your sexual orientation. They don't care about your gender. They just want the best people for the job. They just want the best people for the job who are going to produce the best product that we get, so we get great product. And somehow, the victims. So there we go, folks. I know it's a long one, but I really wanted to get into this because this is so skewed, misleading, and contradictory. I felt it needed to be discussed. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.